terms of the world into a big point of mush.
Although I think there's been several swings of the pendulum. When I was a graduate student in the 60s, when ordinary language philosophy was really the central part of analytic philosophy,
Also, in areas, you know,
people were almost comically modest in their ambitions. No theorizing, big theories, big worldviews were completely out. I think that John Rawls' theory of justice was the first sort of big, grand vision that everybody had to take seriously, and it gave philosophers in the Anglophone world more confidence than they'd had. They now were prepared to tackle. They were sort of embarrassed by the minuscule nature of the topics they were concentrating on. At the same time, and I think at about the same time, began to see the unraveling of something like a consensus about the role of logic, which from Russell through Carnap and Quine. But Quine, I think, was of course, Wittgenstein in a very different way, but Quine was the big unraveler of the confidence that logic was going to be the chief source of answers. There he was a logician, but he concentrated on the sort of non-logical moves you had to make to get logic to do any work for you. And I think he more or less recognized that it's those non-logical moves where all the philosophical progress happens, and logic is just sort of an accounting system to keep you honest. The dream of deducing, because remember, this was also the birth of naturalism. The idea that you could prove anything of interest from purely a priori, from premises,
What happens in
began to look naive. Not that there aren't still people who aspire to that, and certainly there are people who work entirely within a tradition of consulting intuitions and then demonstrating logically what follows from those intuitions. I've challenged people who believe that to tell me how their methodology differs from that of a certain kind of anthropology. And I haven't heard any good answers yet.
Okay, that sounds like a very strong pragmatic influence on modern philosophy through Quine, I guess.
Through Quine, and before Quine, Dewey, and yes, and back to James. Yes, I think American pragmatism is really important and is visible. And in a way, you see the divide. I hadn't thought of this before, but maybe the divide between British analytic philosophy and American analytic philosophy is that it tends to be Americans and Australians that have this pragmatic, that seem to, whereas the British tend to be less enamored forward of both naturalism and pragmatism.
Your own theory of free will seems to me very pragmatic.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
But am I right that after the Dew is dead, pragmatism was not such influence for a long time, and Richard Rorty was such philosopher who renewed the interest to the pragmatism?
Actually, I think Dick Rorty, his role was simply to be self-conscious about it. Look, Quine, completely paradigmatic pragmatist in many regards, and to his credit, Dick Rorty understood that, and you know the role that Dick played for me. He sort of discovered me when I came to give a talk at Princeton, and then he went around talking about my work